Hey guys, it's Heather. This is the last module completely of the Money Spot program on how to start and grow a six-figure product business. This video is all about success implementation tips. I give you a strategy for setting goals, and it was previously split into 10 videos on helping you not to fail because of things other than your product. So instead of having 10 separate videos, in this video you'll go through sections on self-control and willpower, forming good habits and getting discipline and routine going, improving your productivity, being consistent. It's so easy to start but not be consistent. I give you tips to help with that. How to accept that sometimes done is better than perfect, because the perfectionist sometimes fails to just get out and get something sold and marketed. So if you're a perfectionist, you'll love this section. Then I help you to think about how you can stop feeling like you're chasing money. So you're chasing the work you love instead. Then we talk about surrounding yourself with ambitious friends and people in general. And we talk about how you should choose a supportive partner. If you've already got a partner, it might give you ideas for how you can talk to them such that they're more supportive of your ideas. And finally, we talk about getting an accountability buddy so that you reach your goals together and you have someone who you are accountable to for the things that you said you would do. Enjoy this video. Welcome to the first section on Module 37, 9 Success Implementation Tips. In this video, we'll do some goal setting. So we won't go straight into the success implementation tips. I think it's a good idea for you to set some goals before you start thinking about the sort of success that you wish to achieve. First things first, I want you to differentiate between a goal and a fantasy or a preference, okay? So the work that we're doing now is all geared towards identifying what our goals really are and how they might be different to a fantasy or a preference. Grab your training manual. You will receive this by email unless you bought the printed version, in which case it's coming through in the post. If you got the printed version, wait for it and you can write all your goals in there. For the moment, write your goals on paper, ready to transfer into your training manual. So firstly, what are your top 3 goals? For instance, these might be revenue goals. You might start off with a goal such as making profit, that's not revenue, but profit of $2,000 or so per month. Or if you are already in business and have a significant cash flow and revenue, your new goal might be to make $10,000 of revenue per month, or rather $10,000 of profit. In addition, you might have some more non-revenue goals. So for instance, your goal might be to give your children a private education, or if you're not interested in a private education, you might have the goal of wishing to be able to fund any hobbies that your children are interested in. Children sometimes have expensive hobbies like horse riding or learning an instrument or paying a sport that you have to pay for, such as swimming. So write your top 3 goals, as these will help you to focus on the work that you're doing. Next, what research are you doing towards your goals? So I have some friends who say to me they want to start a business, but they're doing nothing towards starting their business. They're merely thinking about what business they might want to do without any research to back up whatever decision they come up with. Research you might do might include online research, going to trade expos. So for instance, there was a time I wanted to start a bicycle manufacturing plant, and I booked a flight to Ukraine, Kiev in Ukraine of all places, because I found a bicycle expo there at a convenient time, and that was part of my research. I ultimately didn't pursue that business because I realized it was far too complex. Research also includes any work you're actually doing towards your goals. So if you've already started the business, it can include things like the website you're having designed, the graphics, the brochure, the writing of the content, the creation of the video. Now, what reading are you doing to get towards your goal? So for instance, when you first start out in business, there are so many things you don't know. So I started off requiring more knowledge on business. So I read business books that just gave you base level business information. Then I realized, okay, I know enough about business now, so I'll read more marketing books. Then when I was very comfortable with marketing, I upgraded to neuromarketing. This is a next level marketing where you think about the psychology of the consumer a lot more. After that, I thought, okay, I'm fine with business. I'm fine with marketing. I want to develop my sales skills. What books should I read for that? In your training manual, you have a list of books that I suggest you read. And I also suggest that you subscribe to Audible. This is an Amazon-owned business that allows you to listen to audiobooks at a reasonable price. A 12-book subscription rather is what I suggest you go for. Now, what are you listening to? Are you listening to good business programs like Bloomberg's Game Changers or any other TV or radio that is conducive to you building your business? What courses are you taking? So for instance, this course counts. This is a very content-rich course which will definitely help to push you towards your goal. Do you have a coach? How much time do you spend with a coach? It does sometimes help to have a coach that mentors you periodically until you are on the right path. A coach is generally paid for. A mentor is generally not paid for. Do you have a mentor as a substitute for a coach? How often do you meet up with them? If you've gone through these questions and having written your top 3 goals, have very solid research work that you're doing towards your goals, you're reading and listening to the right things, you're taking courses, and you have a coach or a mentor, those are definitely goals. If you're not doing any work or research towards your goals, then they're not really goals. They're a mere preference or a fantasy. We're all allowed to fantasize. You know, the guy on the street who doesn't have a home, he fantasizes. There is a difference between a goal and a fantasy. If you're not consistently working towards your goal 3 to 4 times a week, or even more, then it's a fantasy or a preference, not a life goal. A fantasy or preference becomes a real goal only when you enact a committed action. Okay? Action makes it a goal. Lack of action makes it a mere fantasy or a preference. Okay, so go to your training manual. This course is part of the work you're doing towards growing a booming business. And I have a suggested implementation plan that will help you finish all the work in good time. It's near the back of the training manual. Using the bonus execution and planning calendar, create a plan for completing the Money Spot program. In the implementation plan, I give you my suggested plan, and you should use the execution and planning calendar to put your own plan. The implementation plan that I give you is just my suggestion, and you're free to finish the program as fast or as slowly as you like. Don't forget to tick things off in the progress checklist as you complete the learning and exercises. Lots of ticks in this section should make you feel motivated that you're really doing a lot of work towards growing your business. Welcome to Module 37, Success Implementation Tips. In this particular video, we're only going to talk about one particular tip. And this is a focus on improving your self-control and willpower. A lot of people think I'm, very self-controlled and have a lot of willpower, but willpower is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And I actually started practicing my willpower when I was about 11 and in high school. So over a roughly 20-year period now, I think I've got willpower kind of under control, except when it comes to cake. But that's a different story. Anyway, the first thing I wanted to share with you is a psychological experiment called the marshmallow experiment, which was done by a guy called Walter Mischel. Walter Mischel is a clinical psychologist, and in the late 1960s and early 1970s, Walter Mischel carried out experiments on preschoolers in which they were awarded one of two things. Either one treat now or two treats when the tester returned after a 15-minute delay. Now, the treats were left right in front of the kids during the tester's absence. Some kids were barely able to wait a couple of minutes before they gobbled up the treat, whilst others were able to wait considerably longer. The kids involved in the experiment were tracked into adolescence and adulthood, and their life outcomes were startling. Those that managed to wait longer were more successful in many areas of their lives, including SAT scores, so this was a test in America, their overall educational attainment, their body mass index, so they even had better control over what they eat. They were less likely to have been involved in drug use, and they overall had more successful lives than the kids who weren't able to wait before they ate their treat. Now, you're probably thinking, what does this mean for my business? Well, the fact is, there are going to be distractions in your way, many of them, and your ability to tune them out and focus on your business will impact your results. Commit to specific SMART goals and work towards them. The more self-control you exercise, the more consistent you work, and the sooner you will see results. A SMART goal is obviously a goal that's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, and it's time specific. So focus on your goal, and remember, you don't have to listen to all the noise that's coming your way. If you feel as though you're lacking in willpower, don't worry about it. As you go through this course, you'll gain more and more tips on how to gain more self-control and more willpower. For instance, the execution and planning calendar is a key part in planning what you do and then just doing what you've set yourself to do despite not wanting to do it at that particular time. Another experiment that I find particularly interesting is something called the memorizing experiment, and it was carried out by Baba Shiv, a marketing professor. In a 1999 experiment, Baba Shiv carried out a simple experiment on 165 graduate students. Half the students were given a 2-digit number to memorize and half a 7-digit number. The students were then asked to walk to another room where they would recite the number. En route, they were offered a treat as a thank you, either a fruit salad or a chocolate cake. The results again were startling. Students who were holding a 7-digit number in their head were 50% more likely to accept the chocolate cake. Their thinking power was being used up by trying to remember the number, so they were less likely to choose the healthier snack. If you think about your brain as having two decision-making areas, a rational thinking brain and an emotional brain, then it makes sense that if your rational center is busy, your emotional center will take over. This experiment helps to explain willpower. Whilst willpower is an extremely powerful tool, everyone only has a limited supply of it. It will run out at some point. This point was explained best by a consumer psychologist called Kathleen Voss, who said, "Willpower is like gas in your car. When you resist something tempting, you use some up. The more you resist, the emptier your tank gets until you completely run out of gas." Again, what does this mean for your business? Your willpower can be drained by activities that are completely unrelated to running your business. So let's say you're trying to build a business while you're still running a regular job and you're dieting at the same time. If you've been resisting food all day, by the time you get home, your willpower to work on your business is actually going to be low. This also applies if you're already running a business and you're trying to build another business or expand your product range. And whatever willpower you have to exercise in one activity is consuming your limited supply of willpower, such that when you get to the other activity, you're working with a lot less willpower than you initially had. So instead of the 3 hours of work you've committed to do in the evening, you might find yourself completely unable to do more than a good 45 minutes, or you'll be like, oh, forget it, I'll do this tomorrow. It's because your willpower has run out. So when you wake up on any specific morning, know that the willpower you have in that day is limited. If you're practicing self-control on a lot of different issues that you aren't already in the habit of doing, you're using up the willpower that you need to work on your business. I use food in this particular example because I personally have frequently been on a diet, or what I like to call a lifestyle change. And during those times, I will be very focused on what I eat. That said, I haven't noticed a drastic change in how much work I'm able to do when I'm, controlling how much food I eat. But that's perhaps because I don't take dieting to an extreme ever. I always focus more on eating higher quality food rather than eating less food. So perhaps if you're on a diet, instead of starving yourself, just focus on eating a lot more good food and staying full all the time, so that you're not depleting that willpower that you've got to do work. As always, I hope you have your training manual in front of you. These videos only work with the training manual. And you'll need to turn to exercise 2 and fill in those spots. And when you finish exercise 2, go to the checklist at the back and tick them off. So how many hours are you committing to work on your business per day? If you're trying to grow your business in addition to a lot of other tasks you do, you'll obviously have less time. But if you're running your business full-time like I do, then you can allocate a little bit more time. But the amount of time you're going to allocate your business on every particular day of the week has to be a committed and written goal. And how many days a week will you work on your business? When you start out, you might need to work 6.5 days. But as time goes on and you've created your product line and can take a step back, you could cut back to just 5 or even 4 days a week. Building your own business does definitely take a bit more of your time to begin with, but once the work has been done, you can really take a step back and enjoy time with your family and with yourself a lot more. I hope you enjoyed this section on success implementation tips. I know that willpower is something that you consistently have to be working on. I do, everyone does. But if you've got specific written goals and you practice the habit of controlling yourself, and for instance, you might want to be going out on a Friday, but you need to get up early on Saturday to work on your business. And the ability to say no to your friends, that's self-control. Denying yourself things is tough, yes, but you should deny yourself those things knowing that you can do a lot more of them in future. It's not permanent, it's temporary. Once you've got everything up and running, your life is yours to live as you want. And if you're building a business that you enjoy, denying yourself one thing doesn't really feel as painful. This is why one of my tips is that you shouldn't chase money. The more you feel as though you're chasing money, the less enjoyable the task of building a business is, and the more painful self-control will feel. I hope you enjoyed this section on self-control and willpower. Enjoy! And by the way, if you feel like it, look up the Walter Mischel experiment and the Baba Shiv experiment and think about how much more they apply to your life and your business than I've explained in this particular video. Bye-bye! Welcome! In the second success implementation tip, I want to talk about forming good habits. Now, everyone talks about discipline and how being disciplined with your work and your agenda helps you to get where you want to go. But I want you to think about it in a totally different way. And I started thinking about habits and discipline very differently after I read The One Thing by a guy called Jay Papasan and Gary Keller. The One Thing talks about discipline in quite a different way, in the sense that they say you don't actually need discipline. What you need is a set of good habits and just enough discipline to form those habits. So instead of focusing on, I need to be disciplined, you should be focusing on developing certain habits. So you can write a list of habits that you're thinking of as being relevant and good for the growth of your business, and focus on that and completely forget about discipline. The most common thing my employee friends say to me when they hear that I work from home is that they wouldn't be disciplined enough to actually get up and get work done. They'd lie in bed for too long, or they'd get up and decide, oh, I don't feel like working today. I'll watch TV, or I'll just go swimming, or I'll spend the day in the park. Well, for my first 2 years in business, I didn't have a response to this. I just shrugged and pretty much agreed that, yeah, I did have discipline down to a T. However, after reading The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, I had a response. It gave me a new take on what's required to get work done. They explicitly state that you don't need discipline to succeed. You need a set of good habits and just enough discipline to form those habits. I'm repeating myself here because I want you to absorb that. You don't need discipline. You need good habits. I could not agree more. According to The One Thing, it's not about getting everything right. It's about getting the correct things right. Your habits determine your future. The One Thing is one of the books I recommend on the reading list, and you can read those books in any particular order. So let's work on what habits you think you need to work on. Go to your training manual, and you've got a huge section to fill out here. But I want you to have a very good think about the sort of habits you'd like to form to increase your chances of achieving your goals. What habits do you think you need to have in order to be more productive, in order to be less easy to distract? Do you want to stop reading and watching what you even think is trash? And personally, I think most news is trash. If I'm going to read news, I look at very specific things. In fact, it shocks many people to know that I'm not tracking what's going on in the world. I track very relevant people in my business sphere and just a few things about what's going on in the world. If you focus too much on what's going on in the world, you're just going to get depressed. The whole agenda of news channels is to keep you depressed. So why would you want to immerse yourself in that? Another good habit you might want to develop is to read the magazine Entrepreneur on a monthly basis. I subscribe to the magazine, and I ensure that when I get it, I have a 2-3 hour stint in a cafe with a hot chocolate or a mocha and go through the magazine. I always learn something new. Another good habit you might want to work on is working in time blocks. So I like to work in a focused manner between 9 and 12 and say 2 and 5. And even my husband knows that if I'm in a time block, he can't really disturb me. I completely focus on the task at hand, and I won't answer emails, WhatsApp messages, Facebook tweets. It doesn't matter. During my time block, I work on what I'm working on. I don't follow any newspaper or news channel's agenda. I work on my plan. The only thing I'll have going is maybe classic FM. And if I decide, okay, I want a little bit of entertainment while I work, I will have the TV on, but I don't do that too often during my time blocks. I'll tend to do that when I'm doing a task that's really easy or perhaps a little bit boring. Another thing you might want to develop is the habit of not being controlled by a technology. So many people use their technology, in my opinion, in the wrong way. They will go to their phone when their phone makes a sound. So they will have push notifications coming from every app they have, and the moment they get a notification, they check what's going on. That is being controlled by a technology. You should go to your technology when you want to use it. So in my particular case, almost every push notification is turned off. And when I decide I'm going to check this app now, I go to it. Or I'm going to check my phone now, and because my phone doesn't make sounds, I'll see what notifications I've got only by going to my phone at the time that I've chosen. There are numerous habits that you might want to work on. In your training manual, think about the things that you do that you don't like doing. Think about the good habits maybe some of your friends or people that you admire have that you'd like to form. And think about maybe some habits. In fact, instead of thinking about it, why don't you ask someone who knows you well what they think would be a good habit for you to develop and what might be a habit you need to drop. It's often the people that are around us that notice the negatives about us. I hope you enjoyed this new way of thinking about discipline versus habits, and I hope it was as enlightening to you as I personally thought it was when I read it in The One Thing. Welcome to part 3 of Module 37, Success Implementation Tips. In this particular module, I want to focus on productivity. Focus on productivity, and I'm actually going to ask you to stop multitasking. When I grew up, people talked about multitasking as if it was this fantastic thing, and people who could multitask should be heavily admired. Now, the truth is, nobody can multitask efficiently. If you're working on one thing, you're not working on another. When I first started my business, I thought I could run 3 businesses at the same time. I spent some time writing blogs and making videos for each one. It wasn't efficient, and I wasn't seeing much growth in each business. Here are 5 reasons why multitasking will do your business more harm than good. So why is multitasking so detrimental? Firstly, switching between tasks wastes your time. If you're switching between very different tasks in any one day, you'll probably have to spend some time getting into each one every time. You waste time as you move from one task to the other. If you're working on related tasks, on the other hand, there isn't that much time wasted in switching your attention from one to the other. If the tasks build on each other, then the work done on one task will help with the completion of the next task. For instance, on days I'll be making a how-to video on something, I might spend the morning crafting a hair recipe or writing the related blog entry, and early afternoon shooting the video, and early evening editing it. All different tasks, but completely interrelated. Next, multitasking is inefficient and it lowers your productivity. If you multitask by answering emails, tweets, and other messages whilst you work, you're slowing yourself down by a huge amount. I have no alerts on my phone except for text messages, and very few people text me nowadays, so it's not a major distraction. All other apps that can send messages, including WhatsApp, are set not to alert me. I know if there's a message waiting when I go to my phone. If I get a text message while I'm working on something, it doesn't usually get answered until I'm done. When I work exclusively on what I'm working on. I don't even have emails flowing through to my mail app. They're all manually downloaded when I decide I want to check my mail. This may sound hard and a little extreme to do, but once you get used to it, you won't want to work any other way. It's simple. Go to every single app on your phone or iPad that alerts you when something's happening and set it to stop. The email one is the hardest, trust me. When I was learning how to ignore email and only check it periodically, I had to move the mail app off the home screen of my phone because I couldn't bear to look at it and not check it every few seconds. Email controlled me, just as it does most people. Once you see how much you're getting done, it will be a lot easier. And when you multitask, you make many more mistakes. Every brain has a limited amount of processing power. If you make it split attention across several tasks, you will make more errors. Even mechanical actions are impossible when you're doing a complex task. For instance, you couldn't edit a video and walk on a treadmill at the same time, but you can walk and talk because they're both pretty mechanical. Dietitians advise us not to eat and watch TV at the same time because you end up eating a lot more. If the brain is focused on what's on TV, it can't at the same time process what you're shoving into your mouth. It just does it. Eating and TV are two seemingly mechanical and easy tasks, but if the brain can't even handle that, then it certainly can't handle writing a blog and watching TV at the same time. Don't kid yourself if you think you can multitask. Just get the classical music on and write your blog. TV is not your friend. Next, multitasking definitely leads to higher levels of stress. Multitasking is not conducive to working in a relaxed manner. If you want to cut down on stress, don't multitask unnecessarily. I hear some of you say, "Not seeing my emails as they come in will stress me out." No, it won't. Start off by checking your emails twice a day, say at 11 a.m. after you've done your first tasks of the day, and then again at 4 p.m. after a solid few hours of afternoon work. You choose the times. If you must check first thing in the morning, then do that. However, the risk here is that some emails may completely derail what you plan to do in the morning. Spend an hour answering all emails, then shut your email down to do more work. If you don't see efficiency gains, something is very, very wrong. The person that I know that takes this whole not checking emails to an extreme is a guy called Tim Ferriss, who wrote The 4-Hour Workweek. According to him, he, for a very long period of time, only checked his emails once a week on a Monday. Now, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't even pretend I could do that. But apparently he got his virtual assistants so on point and knowing what they needed to do in his business that he could afford to get away with not checking emails every day except for that Monday. And his family knew how to reach him by phone. He didn't do emails. Frankly, I kind of admire that. Last but not least, your subconscious doesn't work as well while you sleep if you're multitasking all the time. So have you ever struggled to find a solution to a problem, gone to bed, and eureka, you've woken up with the answer? This is because your subconscious logs all the things you're working on, and in the time you're not working, it's still trying to solve the problem. If your mind is focused on just one business or one element of your business, then you will incrementally get ideas to improve that area. All your ideas build on each other. However, if you're trying to do so many things at the same time, then your brain will have to split its work. When you're focused on one thing, the other will suffer. You will have more eureka moments related to whatever your current focus is and less on the other. For inspiration on the benefits of focus, read The One Thing, The Surprisingly Simple Truth Behind Extraordinary Results by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. I seriously can't recommend this book enough. It's on your reading list, and you will definitely learn to think about a few things differently by reading it. So, what can you do to focus better? A lot of the things I'll talk about right now were discussed in section 2 on success implementation, discipline, and good habits. But this should really reinforce them. Firstly, stop reading and watching the news. I quit the habit of reading news online and offline in 2012 after Tim Ferriss suggested it in the 4-Hour Workweek. It hasn't affected me whatsoever. Most of what's on the news is nonsense or won't affect your life in any way, shape, or form. Next, turn off all notifications on your phone. Twitter notices, Facebook, email, everything. My phone only makes a sound when I get a text message or a phone call, and I don't even get many of those. Try to do the same and see how your own focus and productivity improve. Next, check emails only at pre-specified times. Do not have your inbox open all the time. In fact, you can go to your phone and turn off Fetch New Data, and you'll be surprised that you don't even miss the fact that your phone is not constantly downloading emails. Don't respond to emails the moment they're received. You need to focus on the tasks that you're working on, and the emails will still be there when you're done. Trust me, this is one of the hardest suggestions ever. When I first started learning new email habits, I checked it only twice a day, just after lunch and 30 minutes before I planned on stopping to work. Outside of that, I didn't at all. I even had to move the mail app off of my main phone screen, which shocked one of my best friends. She was like, "Oh my God, that's like so fundamental." And I was like, well, now that I'm getting into the habit of not persistently checking emails, it isn't as fundamental as I also used to think it was. The fact is, you will get more done without constant disturbances from your inbox. Next, block off productivity hours. Plan what you want to achieve between time X and Y, and don't do anything else in that time. Don't just state, "I'll work between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. without setting the specific things you plan on achieving in those 2 hours, because you just simply won't get much done. I've been doing this since I was 11 years old, so I know that it works. By university, I used to study in 5-minute time blocks for 2 hours. I knew exactly what I needed to have learned within every 5-minute period, and I was very strict about it because I'm a classic daydreamer. If I'm not serious about what I'm doing, I am probably daydreaming about something or other. I can actually focus that well for 2 hours, but it took me a few years to get that level. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll get there. Finally, plan your work. You have to have daily written goals to achieve, and it feels fantastic to tick them off a list. It actually makes you feel like you're getting somewhere. Go to your training manual and do exercise 4. So how do you plan on increasing your productivity? And when I talk about productivity here, I mean, how do you plan on achieving more in every hour than you actually do? So if you normally take 3 hours to do something, what could you do to make it possible to do that particular thing in an hour? Productivity is one of the biggest reasons behind success. Some people just get a hell of a lot more done than others. I'm currently on a business coaching program called the Key Person of Influence, and they have certain people in the program who have spent 2 years trying to achieve some things that I've done in 3 months. Multitasking, focus, productivity, this is all the stuff that should be swimming through your brain right now. I hope you enjoyed this little section on focus versus multitasking. I hope I'm not challenging the way you think about things too much, and that this has helped you decide how you can do things a little bit better. I'll see you in the next section. Just remember that for this section, the conclusion is there are a ton of distractions coming your way all the time, and you will always achieve much more and produce more with focus rather than by trying to multitask. So, I hope your training manual is all filled up and you know exactly what you're going to do to increase your productivity. Welcome to part 4 of module 37 on success implementation tips. In this particular module, we're going to talk about consistency. And when you're working through dips, that is when you're at a point in time when you don't feel like working, and hence consistency becomes even more important, how do you stay motivated? Consistency is what will get you to your goals. Consistency is my secret weapon, and it can be yours as well. Consistency took me from being a low A/high B student that came somewhere in the top 10 to the unbeatable A-star student that got a full scholarship to the coveted University of Cambridge. Sometimes high school students ask me for tips on how I got into Cambridge. Unfortunately, if you're already 16 or older when you ask me, as they typically are, it's a bit late for me to relay this particular secret. I started studying consistently when I was 11 years old. I went to boarding school a few weeks after term had started, and friendships had already been made, so I found it rather hard to make friends. So work became my alternative friend. From the beginning of term, I would write a timetable and spend 4 to 5 hours daily outside of the scheduled teaching, revising, and doing homework. Most people only did this when it was exam term or just prior to a test. I discovered two things. Firstly, my grades improved each and every single term, just a little bit, but noticeably. Secondly, the whole studying thing started getting easier and easier. My brain began to retain larger volumes of information for longer periods of time. There were a couple of people I saw as on another playing field, unbeatable, and by the end of my second year of high school, I was achieving the same marks as them in several subjects. I was by now always first, second, or third in 90% of the tests that I took. By the time I reached the sixth and final year of school, I actually knew I was unbeatable. No one can take away 6 years of hard work. I never crammed, I just followed the same strategy of consistency, and it worked. Now, why have I gone so far back into history to demonstrate this here point of consistency? Well, it's simple. When I started my business, I was doing exactly the same thing. I set a weekly schedule of goals and I stuck to it. I did some work every day, and you need to do exactly the same thing for your business. You can't write 5 blogs in 1 week and none in the following week. If you commit to a certain number of marketing activities, or whatever it is you're working on, per week, then you need to do all of them. To achieve consistency, don't place too much on your plate. Set yourself SMART goals, that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-specific goals. If you need help to remain consistent, get help. The truth is, most people can't do this one thing. They cannot remain consistent. Apparently, and this is just an example, 90% of those who start a blog give up within just 6 months. This means that if you're one of those rare people that can stick to something, you're well ahead of the pack already. Okay, so how do we plan on remaining consistent and staying motivated? Remember that nothing happens overnight. It takes consistent and repeated action before you see the results that you want. Even after you've formed all the right habits, staying motivated can be a challenge, especially when you're tired. Here are a few strategies you can use to cope. First, don't put too much on your plate. I consistently liked putting so many things in a day that I always felt overwhelmed by the end of the week with regards to what I hadn't achieved. So I started with a different strategy. I would always put more things that I needed to achieve on Monday, a few less on Tuesday, a few less on Wednesday and on Thursday, and nothing on Friday. So whatever didn't get done in the first 4 days of the week would get put into Friday and occasionally into Saturday as well. This is a very good coping mechanism if you feel like you keep giving yourself goals and consistently take more time to do things that you thought should take you less time. Next, set specific goals that you can measure that are easy for you to attain. So for instance, to say, I want to get 1,000 Facebook likes per day. And that's obviously you've got the money to fund that sort of advertising. Go for a more humble goal like 50 per day. Make sure the goals are relevant to your business, and make sure you put a time limit on when you need to get those goals achieved. Next, if you need help, for instance, in the form of a virtual assistant, get help. I think it is well worth the money to get a little help and achieve more, rather than try to do everything yourself, even the things that you know you're definitely not good at, and produce substandard work. If your budget is rather tight, get a virtual assistant for maybe 10 hours a week, or maybe 5, and give them the most basic operational tasks that you might have taken 10 hours to do, but a virtual assistant can do in 5 hours. I've got an operational virtual assistant, and I promise you, when it comes to very basic tasks, she achieves them 3 times faster than I ever would. Take time off when you're tired. Even a whole day off work can really rejuvenate you if you've been consistently doing 7 days a week. So even when you feel like I can't take a single day off, If you know you're tired, your brain is tired, taking that whole day off might actually boost the productivity level when you come back. Time off is important. Don't work yourself too hard. Next, keep reading to or listening to business books by people who are where you want to be or have been through what you're going through. I find this really good when I'm feeling a little bit down. Looking at someone's journey and seeing that they had problems as well, or just seeing how they solved their problems, makes me feel like, okay, I know what I need to do next. If you're feeling low on action and motivation, just get a book, listen to it. Listening is a lot easier when it comes to business books than reading. So I don't even try to read business books most of the time. I just listen to them. If you go to your training manual, I suggest a good list of books that you should read in order to progress your business. Celebrate the small wins. You're not going to leap from nothing to Martha Stewart overnight without a significant investment of time and effort initially. So you have to celebrate when something small happens. For instance, if you finish a new brand design, hey, have a celebratory dinner. If you reach 500 subscribers on YouTube or likes on Facebook or followers on Twitter, it's time to celebrate. If you manage to set up a new distribution channel, celebrate that. If you've managed to achieve all your weekly goals when normally you were struggling to, that is worth celebrating. The more you celebrate the small wins, the more you feel like you're progressing towards your goal. Last but certainly not least, remind yourself why you're doing it. What are the reasons behind your business? And not just the revenue goals, but why do you fundamentally want to achieve success? Do you have goals for your children? Is there a big overarching life goal you have? Perhaps for charity? Perhaps for humanity? Reminding yourself why you're in business will help you to keep going. Personally, I do have charitable goals, but I enjoy the flexibility of business, the creativity of business, the ability to get things that you want much more easily when your business achieves success, and the lack of restriction that I have in my life. Having a regular job was just too restrictive for me. Go to your training manual and work through the exercises. Exercise 5 asks you to search for virtual assistant at nenonatural.com, my business website, for a blog on how I went about hiring a virtual assistant. Take a lot of notes from that blog, and now think through which day you'll take off work every week. If you don't want to take a whole day off, write down the afternoon you'll take off and make sure you put it in your diary, because when something is in your diary or on your calendar, you're much more likely to do it. When will you take a whole week off work? This really helps to rest your brain and get the creative juices going. You need at least a whole week off at some point. What books are on your reading list? In addition to the ones I suggest, you need to find other books that you want to read. Subscribe to Audible's 12-book membership. It's very reasonably priced. Commit to listening to one business book per month, and it will help to keep you motivated. In terms of reminding yourself why you're doing it, think through the family goals that are underpinned by the business, the charitable goals, and those are my ways of staying motivated. What else might work for you? What makes you want to work, or what scares you from resting too much? Consistency is absolutely fundamental. It is your secret weapon. It is what will get you ahead of the pack. It is what will get your business growing. I hope you enjoyed this section on consistency and motivation. Welcome to part 5 of module 37 on success implementation tips. In this section, I want to talk about how trying to be a perfectionist really hinders progress. I know people who talk about being a perfectionist like it's some badge of honor, but really, when it comes to business, it is not a good quality to have. As usual, I love my stories. So I'll tell you about a friend of mine. My friend is a bit of a perfectionist. I love her dearly, but you'll know that in order to progress in building an online business, you kind of need a blog, and she committed to starting a blog. But she decided she'd only start the blog when she'd done some solid research into the field that she wanted to blog about, because she wanted to be taken seriously. It's coming on to about 6 to 9 months now, and that blog has not been started. I mean, seriously? When it comes to writing blogs and making videos, you just need to start. Shoot a video using your phone and upload it to YouTube. In fact, nowadays there are apps that allow you to record, edit, and upload straight from your phone. The quality isn't as good as when you use a proper camera and edit within a more developed video editor, but it does the job. Personally, when my husband and I went on holiday to India, we tried using YouTube's Capture app to record a vlog. Yes, the quality was quite poor, but the whole series was very well received by our fans. If there's anything you're scared of doing, don't be. Get an online tutorial and just start doing whatever it is that you need to do. I actually have several perfectionist friends, so I'll tell you about another guy. He's very passionate in explaining his desire to start a business. He started telling me about it in about 2005. It's now 2014 and he's still in a job, albeit a very high-paying job. Yet, every time we meet, he's still researching something related to starting his own thing. He had very few responsibilities in the last 9 years and could have taken the risk, but now he has a baby coming along, and I very much doubt he'll ever jump and start his own business. It's really good to just be happy with a good quality output and have it done than to sit around and waste time waiting for a perfect job. Perfection simply is not achievable. The message I'm trying to portray is best explained by a phrase I got from Rework by Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansen. Done is better than perfect. I just love that line. Done is better than perfect. Just get it done. To build a lucrative business, remember that you don't need to achieve perfection, because perfection is not achievable. You just need to start and to be consistent in your efforts. Trying to perfect a job will A, stop you from completing it, and B, will prevent you from moving on to other important tasks. Don't do a bad job, but keep in mind that after a certain point, some changes that you make are completely unimportant and superfluous. Recognize when you've reached that stage. Good and done is better than perfect and still waiting. I hope you enjoyed this little section on conquering the desire to be perfect. Go to your training manual and please do the suggested reading. I'll see you in the next section. Welcome to part 6 of module 37 on success implementation tips. In this section, I talk about how chasing money will actually result in you not achieving what you want in business because you become bored and exasperated. Chasing money instead of being passionate about what your product is and what you're working on is not a good strategy for business. It's pretty simple. If money is all there is in it for you, you're bound to fail sooner or later. I've only seen one alternative to loving your product, and that's loving business itself. Some people, myself included, to a certain degree just love business. They love strategizing, creating, and developing a framework for a business. I arrived in Great Britain in 2002 with just one suitcase. One of the things I packed was a folder full of business plans that I'd written on paper during my gap year between high school and university. I just loved business and had always wanted to start one. I was recently cleaning the files on my computer and I found about 10 folders with business ideas that had fully fledged plans. There are some businesses I would definitely enjoy running more than others, but ultimately I'd rather be running any business than have a regular job with the restriction that regular jobs come with. My dad is exactly like me. He started doing business before he was even a teenager and has been running a business of one form or another throughout his life. By the time he hit his first really successful business, he tried and tested so many. He'd learned that he didn't enjoy employment and loved business even after coming to the brink of collapse. Living in one of the world's poorest third world countries, his strategy for starting a business in the early 80s was simple. He walked around from one shop to the next, looked at the different products on offer, and thought through whether or not he could make the product in question. He reasoned that the fewer the inputs, the easier it would be for him to import raw materials. Whenever he thought he could make something, he went home and carried out some research on it. In the end, he settled on candle manufacturing. The gods must have seen his hard work and suffering, because 6 months later, this man, who had been born in a village hut, had worn patchwork shorts growing up, had turned the equivalent of £150,000. That's a six-figure income. At that time, the pound was still more powerful than the dollar, so it was a lot of money. Every time I hear that story, I get goosebumps because I feel the endless possibilities of the world. I think to myself, if my dad, with all the limitations of being born in what is still one of the 10 poorest countries in the world, Malawi, could follow his passion of owning a business and achieve that, what excuse do I have? What excuse do you have? What excuse does anyone have? The world is your oyster. Just take action. Now go to your training manual and do exercise 7. And it's all about thinking through why you love your business. For instance, do you love creating? Why do you love creating? Do you love the mental challenge? Specifically, what mental challenges do you enjoy? Do you like the flexibility of your work schedule? Why? Why is that even relevant? Do you love being home more often? Do you love being able to get your kids things that you think they should have? Do you love to travel? Think through your business, think through what you're passionate about, and figure out why it's not money that you're in business for. The conclusion is pretty simple. If money is all there is in it for you, you're bound to fail sooner or later. Money simply isn't enough to get you up every morning, even if you think you totally love money. There has to be something else in it for you. I'll see you in the next section of Module 7. Welcome to Section 7 of Module 37 on Success Implementation Tips. This module is about surrounding yourself with ambitious friends, basically having a positive environment that is conducive to business success and personal growth. The people we see tend to set our standards for what's acceptable. Unless you're surrounded by similarly ambitious people, you will operate at below your optimal performance. In From Good to Amazing by Michael Serwa, he goes as far as saying that you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most in terms of happiness, finances, personal growth, everything. If your friends are happy to be average, they make you feel okay when you underperform. They even justify that underperformance. Mediocre people don't come out and say, I am mediocre. Their self-limiting beliefs are evident in the things they say and do. Watch out for statements that indicate a small thinker. I'll give you examples from my own life. I was driving around town with 2 girlfriends, looking for rental places for one of them, and she said, I could never own a place in London. It's too expensive. I find it rather shocking when people say those sorts of things because I think anything is possible for anyone. I wholeheartedly believe that one day I'll be able to buy a sprawling pad in the Hamptons or a yacht, but I won't because I don't want those things, not because I can't have them. I asked why she would have such a self-limiting belief, and she said even if she had the money, she'd rather buy in a much cheaper region of England. I was okay with the excuse. What I wasn't okay with is her thinking affording a place in London is an impossibility. I hate the word impossible. Another time, I was having a debate with friends in Cambridge about the tax system penalizing hard workers. Then one person blurted out, "Well, it's your fault for getting so rich," as though hard work that culminated in wealth was a crime. Aspiration, wealth, and hard work are not things to be ashamed of. The privileged should certainly pay their fair share of taxes and give back through charity, but I hate people who talk of these things as though they're dirty. Sometimes the mediocrity of friends is revealed by the things they do rather than what they say. Take a good look at your friends. Those that share nothing with you but the latest gossip are not benefiting you in any way. Those that are passionate about self-development and seeking role models are positive influences for you. If you look around and discover you're surrounded by mediocrity, it's time to make new friends and to start increasing your exposure to positive influences. Start with what you watch. Television is full of entrepreneurial shows and competitions, such as Bloomberg's Game Changers, The Apprentice, although it can get pretty fabricated, Shark Tank in the US, Dragon's Den in the UK, and so the list continues. Make new friends by joining courses or entrepreneurial meetups via entrepreneur.meetup.com. I'm not saying dump your mediocre friends. I'm saying don't immerse yourself in their way of thinking, because sooner or later it will become your way of thinking. In summary, the people around you impact you more than you think. Attitude is contagious. Surrounding yourself with the right people is the right thing to do. Being around successful people creates what scientists call a positive spiral of success, in which they lift you up and send you on your way. Just as an example of how your environment influences you, research by social scientists Dr. Nicholas A. Christakis and Professor James H. Fowler found that if one of your close friends becomes obese, you're 57% more likely to do the same. The people we see tend to set our standards for what is acceptable. If the people you spend time with are high achievers, their achievements will influence your own. In a study featured in the Journal of Psychology, out of 500 children, it was found that children that established a reciprocal best friend relationship with high achievers saw an increase in their report card grades, as well as improvement in their motivational beliefs and other academic achievements. This I read in The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. To conclude this particular section, I'd love to finish off with a quote by Colin Powell. I love this quote. It says, "The less you associate with some people, the more your life will improve. Anytime you tolerate mediocrity in others, it increases your mediocrity." An important attribute in successful people is their impatience with negative thinking and negative acting people. As you grow, your associates will change. Some of your friends will not want you to go on. They'll want you to stay where they are. Friends that don't help you climb will want you to crawl. Your friends will stretch your vision or choke your dream. Those that don't increase you will eventually decrease you. Consider this. Never receive counsel from unproductive people. Never discuss your problems with someone incapable of contributing to the solution, because those who never succeed themselves are always first to tell you how. Not everyone has a right to speak into your life. You're certain to get the worst of the bargain when you exchange ideas with the wrong person. Don't follow anyone who's not going anywhere. With some people, you spend an evening. With others, you invest it. Be careful where you stop to inquire for directions along the road of life. Wise is the person who fortifies his life with the right friendships. If you run with wolves, you'll learn how to howl. But if you associate with eagles, you'll learn how to soar to great heights. A mirror reflects a man's face, but what he is really like is shown by the kind of friends he chooses. The simple but true fact of life is that you become like those with whom you closely associate, for the good and the bad. Note, be not mistaken. This is applicable to family as well as friends. Yes, do love, appreciate, and be thankful for your family, for they will always be your family no matter what. Just know that they're human first, and though they are family to you, they may be a friend to someone else and will fit somewhere in the criteria above. In prosperity, our friends know us. In adversity, we know our friends. Never make someone a priority when you're only an option for them. If you're going to achieve excellence in big things, you develop the habit in little matters. Excellence is not an exception. It's a prevailing attitude. I hope you enjoyed this section. Remember that the people we see will set our standards for what's acceptable. Go to your training manual and do exercise 8. It's all about thinking through your environment. Which friends could be impacting your progress negatively? Which friends would you like to be influenced by more? How will you expand your network of friends? See you in the next module. Welcome to part 8 of module 37 on success implementation tips. This particular section is about the need for supportive partners. The people we choose to make our lives with can make us or break us. The sad fact is that many choose to stay with a partner that's not supportive of their hopes and dreams. I'm not talking about physically or emotionally abusive relationships here. Those are special cases. You need to watch out for these 5 types of partners. They will hold you back. Hyper-conservative partners are very risk-averse. You see opportunity, they see a huge, life-shaking risk. A very conservative partner will plot out so many things that could go wrong with your plan that you will actually start to believe them. If one of their predictions is realized early into your business plan, it may convince you further that they're right, so you will give up. You need to have a plan for dealing with their scenarios. Well, those that sound remotely likely anyway. Hear it from me. In business, something goes wrong every single day. Suck it up and march on. It's part of the fun. Next, we have the discouragers. The discouragers are driven by jealousy. It's not that they don't want you to do well, but they're scared of you outperforming them. They too discourage you by telling you why your plan is so flawed, but risk aversion is not their driving force, as with the hyper-conservative partners. It's jealousy. Fortunately, I've known very few pessimists in my life, but nothing can zap your passion like a pessimist. They simply see things from a negative point of view. It's not just with your business plans, it's with everything. If you can keep your passion and drive strong, despite having a pessimistic lover, more power to you. It's definitely easier to start a business when you know that your partner is in a safe and stable job. However, if you're dealing with a man that doesn't work, is happy for you to pay all the bills, and is a general scrub, you have to hit the road without discomfort. Of all the partners that can hold you back, this one is the most benign. He will provide moral support, but nothing else. You'll have to stay in your day job until the business is solid, because anything else would be too risky. That's okay. It may take a little longer to hit your goals, but you will get there. Now, the dictator. This man is the worst type of all 5, because he will make you feel that if you do go ahead, you're disobeying him, and the relationship is at risk. This type of dominant personality can be driven by any number of factors: a need to control, jealousy, stinginess, fear of risk, or all of the above. I would not last with a dictator. I have a friend who's married to one and has made peace with the fact that she probably will never own a business, although she would love to, or at least love to try. Alternatively, you need to have a really strong character too, so that you can overpower a dictator lover. Ultimately, the stronger your self-belief, drive, and passion, the less any partner will be able to hold you back. If you're still dating, figure out what type of partner you have, and if it's the wrong type, run, baby, run. Having a supportive partner will push you forward. Now, let's go to the training manual and have a look at exercise 9. I want to think about the type of support you're receiving at home. If you don't think that you're getting the support that you need and deserve, then it's time to think of some strategies. Maybe you could talk to your partner, make them realize the importance of what you're trying to achieve and why you want to achieve it. Have a good think about how you will tackle the lack of support at home. I hope you enjoyed this section of Success Implementation Tips. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to part 9 of Module 37 on Success Implementation Tips. This section is about accountability buddies. Having an accountability buddy increases your chance of success. Show me a successful person, and I will show you someone who was accountable to someone to reach the heights of success that they did. It doesn't matter what field you choose, be it sports, weight loss, or business. Accountability is a crucial success factor. You need to be accountable to someone other than yourself. An objective third party is the best accountability partner you can have. Studies have actually shown that when you are accountable to someone else for achieving specific written goals, you become more likely to succeed. 18 months into running my hair product business, I was fortunate enough to realize that if I was going to grow, I needed to expand my network. I started joining entrepreneur networking groups and in the process found myself a buddy. Now let's define what a buddy is not. A buddy is not your coach or your mentor. Coaches charge by the hour, but accountability buddies are meant to be free because the relationship is mutually beneficial. The payment is essentially an exchange of services. You're accountable to each other to grow and develop. You shouldn't be paying an accountability buddy because it would mean the relationship isn't mutually beneficial. So how do you work with an accountability buddy? Firstly, each of you needs to have written, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-related goals, SMART goals, that you share with each other. This way you know what the other is trying to achieve. Share your written goals in an email and then have a weekly call with an agenda. This can be a video chat or a telephone call, but you need to meet at least weekly to discuss what you're doing. On your call, you can chat about your business, any issues you're facing in your business, and how progress towards your goals is coming along. These chats are supposed to be business focused, but of course you can have 5 or 10 minutes just chatting about your life in general. But do make sure that you're talking about the business, as that's what you're supposed to be accountable to each other for. The weekly call is fundamental. I think a month is too long a stretch of time to stay unaccountable. A 30 to 45-minute call is ideal, but if you're really strapped for time, 10 minutes is better than nothing. You can start your journey of accountability with some coaching so you know how to plan and grow, but over the long haul, you do need someone else to be accountable to. Once you've had all the benefits of coaching, you probably still want some of the benefits you receive in terms of accountability, but without having to incur that ongoing cost. So, where do you find an accountability buddy? Well, you have to go out and look for them. They're not just going to land in your life. You can find one through business networking events. So for instance, if you go online and look for entrepreneur.meetups.com, you can find events that are happening near you there. I'm sure there are a lot of other websites you can Google for events that will allow you to network with people in your field. You can connect with people at trade shows and expos. And if you find someone that has a lot in common with you and who you think you would click with, they can become your accountability buddy. You just need to ask them, You can ask an existing friend to become your business buddy, but they might not be as objective as someone who is fresh and new and seeing your pursuits from a very objective and fresh perspective. I hope you enjoyed this section on accountability buddies. Let's go to the training manual and do exercise 10. Think about how you'll go about getting an accountability buddy. And when you found that buddy and successfully worked with them for 8 weeks, write who they are in your training manual. If the relationship doesn't work out, you need to go out there and find another accountability buddy. Good luck.